the world holds its breath. Every headline, every alert, and every market movement seems to signal a new crisis. Uncertainty has become the new normal, and people everywhere are searching for answers in a rapidly changing landscape. Every tweet and policy shift from Donald Trump sends shockwaves through global markets. Investors, business leaders, and ordinary citizens alike watch his social media feed, knowing that a single message can trigger billions of dollars in gains or losses within minutes. His unpredictable trade approach, especially with China, has created a climate of economic anxiety. The world's two largest economies are locked in a high-stakes standoff, and the consequences ripple far beyond their borders. One day, a deal seems close. The next, new tariffs threaten recession. Markets swing wildly, and businesses scramble to adapt to the latest developments, never sure what tomorrow will bring. This isn't just about numbers. Businesses, workers, and families worldwide feel the impact. From small shop owners to factory workers and families gathered around the dinner table, the uncertainty seeps into daily life, shaping decisions and fueling anxiety about the future. Financial analysts now parse presidential tweets for clues as traditional forecasting fails. The old rules no longer apply, and experts are left searching for patterns in a sea of unpredictability. The uncertainty chills investment and hiring, making long-term planning nearly impossible. Companies hesitate to expand, and workers worry about job security as the economic outlook grows ever more uncertain. Australia, deeply tied to China's economy, is caught in the crossfire, forced to balance its U.S. alliance with its economic lifeline to Beijing. The nation's leaders face tough choices as they navigate this delicate diplomatic and economic tightrope. Every escalation in the U.S.-China dispute jolts Australia's currency, stock market, and exports. The effects are immediate and tangible, felt in boardrooms, ports, and households across the country. For Australians, this is not a distant drama. It's an immediate threat to jobs and living standards. Families worry about their future, and workers wonder if their livelihoods will survive the next round of tariffs or trade restrictions. The global economy's interconnectedness means a US-China trade war affects everyone. No nation is immune, as supply chains stretch across continents and economies rise and fall together. The decisions made in Washington and Beijing will shape our collective future. In this world on edge, the stakes have never been higher, and the outcome will define the next chapter for us all. 2025 has been a masterclass in whiplash diplomacy, with the world's economic powerhouses locked in a tense, unpredictable dance. In February, Trump hinted at a possible trade deal with China, sending a wave of optimism through global markets and giving a much-needed boost to economies like Australia's. Investors and business leaders cheered, hoping for stability after years of uncertainty. But by April, the mood shifted dramatically. Trump unleashed a fresh round of tariffs, reigniting the trade war and wiping billions from global stock markets overnight. The sudden escalation left financial institutions scrambling to adjust and sent shockwaves through boardrooms worldwide. Then, just as panic set in and uncertainty peaked, Trump reversed course yet again. He announced ongoing talks with Beijing and exempted key tech products from tariffs, injecting a dose of hope back into the markets and leaving analysts scrambling to interpret his next move. This chaotic dance of threats, sudden reversals, and dramatic concessions is classic Trump, a negotiating style that thrives on unpredictability and keeps both allies and rivals guessing. The so-called tariff bluff-man approach is designed to keep Beijing off balance, forcing Chinese negotiators to react rather than plan, and aiming to extract better terms for the US at every turn. But it's a risky game, one that erodes trust, fuels market volatility, and raises the risk of a miscalculation that could spiral into a full-blown economic conflict. Every move is watched with anxiety by businesses and governments alike. Allies and analysts are left guessing as global trade policy becomes a nerve-wracking game of chicken. The uncertainty is palpable, with every headline and tweet capable of moving markets and shifting alliances. The constant shifts and reversals undermine confidence, making it nearly impossible for businesses to plan for the future or invest with certainty. Long-term strategies are put on hold as everyone waits for the next twist. For Australia, each twist in the saga brings new economic uncertainty. Exporters, investors, and everyday workers all feel the ripple effects, as the nation's fortunes are tied to the outcome of this high-stakes standoff. The stakes are enormous, with trillions of dollars and millions of jobs hanging in the balance. The outcome remains anyone's guess, and the world is watching closely. Trump's high-stakes gamble has turned global markets into a roller coaster, with wild swings and heart-stopping drops that leave investors breathless. As the world holds its breath, everyone is waiting to see who will blink first, and what the next move in this global game will be. Currencies are the pulse of global finance, constantly shifting in value and reflecting the world's economic heartbeat. Every day, trillions of dollars move across borders, connecting economies and shaping the fortunes of nations, businesses, and individuals alike. The US-China trade war has sent these markets into chaos, creating a storm of uncertainty that ripples through every corner of the globe. The US dollar index has swung wildly, reflecting not just shifting investor sentiment but also the deep anxieties and hopes of global markets. Each new headline or policy announcement can trigger dramatic moves. The Australian dollar especially has become a mirror for the state of US-China relations, rising and falling in tandem with the latest developments. Hints of a trade deal send the Aussie soaring as optimism returns and investors bet on stability. But new tariff threats or diplomatic tensions can make it plunge just as quickly, wiping out gains in a matter of hours. For traders, the Aussie is now a proxy for global risk appetite, a barometer for how the world feels about economic stability and future growth. Every headline, tweet, or policy shift moves the currency, creating constant headaches for importers, exporters, and the Reserve Bank of Australia, who must adapt to a landscape that changes by the minute. Volatility makes business planning difficult. Profits can vanish or costs can spike overnight, leaving companies scrambling to adjust their strategies and protect their bottom lines. A falling dollar fuels inflation, making everyday goods more expensive for Australian families and businesses. Meanwhile, a rising dollar hurts exporters, making Australian products less competitive overseas and threatening jobs in key industries. This constant fluctuation is a tax on certainty, driven by unpredictable trade policy and the ever-changing winds of global politics. The wild ride of the dollar is a symptom of a deeply unsettled global order, where economic and political shocks can upend markets in an instant. For Australia, currency chaos is more than just numbers on a screen. It's a daily economic reality that touches every household, business, and community. Australia's prosperity is built on China's rise. China is by far Australia's largest trading partner, buying everything from iron ore to wine and education. This deep dependency means any threat to China's economy hits Australia immediately. The US-China trade war is a direct threat to Australia's economic model. Positive trade news boosts the Aussie dollar, negative news sends it tumbling. Australia faces a diplomatic tightrope, a security alliance with the US but an economic lifeline to China. Every policy decision risks upsetting one giant or the other. The current conflict puts this balancing act under immense strain. Australia can't afford to anger the US or lose access to China's market. The partnership that brought wealth now exposes Australia to geopolitical risk. Navigating this fallout requires deft diplomacy and resilience. A full-blown trade war would devastate Australia. If the US slaps tariffs on all Chinese exports, China could flood markets like Australia with cheap goods, crushing local industries. Some Australian sectors might benefit by filling gaps left by US exporters, but the risks far outweigh the rewards. A global recession would slash demand for Australia's key exports, collapsing prices and gutting national income. The impact would be severe: higher unemployment, stagnant wages, and declining living standards. Government budgets would be squeezed, threatening essential services. Australia faces a lose-lose dilemma. Siding with the US risks Chinese retaliation, but neutrality brings collateral damage. The only real solution is de-escalation, but that's out of Australia's hands. Decisions in Washington and Beijing will determine Australia's fate. For now, Australia is a bystander, bracing for impact. Australia's main defense is its central bank, the RBA. In a trade war, the RBA would slash interest rates to near zero to cushion the blow. But with economic momentum already slowing, Australia enters this crisis without a strong buffer. A severe trade war could send the Aussie dollar into freefall, some predict as low as 40 US cents. Such a collapse would make imports expensive, trigger inflation, and impoverish the nation overnight. The RBA faces a tough bind: support the economy without triggering a currency crisis. Australia's fate is tied to global forces beyond its control. Policymakers can only prepare for the worst. The US and China face the trade war from very different positions. The US is haunted by stagflation, stagnant growth, and stubborn inflation, making the Federal Reserve's job nearly impossible. Rate cuts risk fueling inflation. Holding rates high could trigger recession. Meanwhile, China's economy is defying expectations, growing robustly in early 2025. Retail sales and industrial production are surging thanks to effective stimulus. China's central bank is cautious, holding rates steady and watching for risks. This gives Beijing a stronger hand in negotiations, while the US faces mounting pressure. The contrast is stark, a confident China versus a worried America. This divergence shapes the global outlook and the balance of power. The world is watching to see who will emerge stronger. The trade war is as much about politics as economics. Trump's tariffs are a political tool, but the market turmoil is creating backlash, even within his own party. Legislation is being proposed to limit presidential tariff powers, reflecting deep unease in Washington. The endgame may hinge on which side blinks first: China under pressure, or Trump facing political and economic blowback. Market panic could force a change in US policy, as economic pain erodes political capital. For Americans, the stakes are jobs, prices, and global leadership. For Australians, their economic well-being hangs in the balance. Both nations are caught in a great power tug-of-war. The outcome will shape prosperity and power for years to come. Navigating this era of competition is the defining challenge of our time.